Without vision, the people will perish. Maybe you've heard that statement before. Maybe you've heard the term vision. What is it, and why do we drift from it? On today, I've titled this episode Vision Drift. Well, hey, welcome to the Brian Wood Leadership Podcast, where we give you the confidence to lead well. This is episode number 5. Thank you guys so much for following along this journey. I hope that you have obtained and gained confidence to lead well. I hope it's added value to your life. I would love for you, it means so much if you would make sure you subscribe. Make sure you follow, share this content if it adds value to you. I believe it'll add value to someone else as well. I really appreciate the encouraging words and just all the support along the way. Again, I hope it adds value and it gives you confidence to lead well. We're going to talk a lot about vision today. What is it and why do we drift from it? I believe this is an urgent necessity in leadership. We have to have vision. We have to have vision, and we have to ensure that we don't drift from it. I'll start with a story, and then we'll answer some of those questions. I went to a conference a couple years ago and met a guy there by the name of Jeff Henderson. Jeff Henderson at the time was a pastor, but prior to that, he did some marketing for the Atlanta Braves, and then he did some marketing at the headquarters of Chick-fil-A in Georgia as well. And so needless to say, he knew a little bit about marketing, he knew a little bit about strategy, and he knew a whole lot about vision. And he shared a story at the conference, and I'm there listening firsthand. And he shared a story about Burger King, how Burger King had brought them into their headquarters, and they went to a local location or local branch, store, restaurant, whatever you want to call it. And they were sitting there with the headquarters, with the board, I guess the main leaders of the team, and they began to talk and talk about strategy and their vision and things that they were struggling with. And they looked at Pastor Jeff and they said, hey, I want you to help us. We can't figure out why our chicken sandwich sales are down. I want us to figure out a strategy on how to boost those, how to get those higher. We want to sell more chicken sandwiches. And so Pastor Jeff says, I paused for a moment. I looked at him and I said, hey, let's go outside for just a minute. And he said they looked at me really odd, couldn't figure out what was happening and why I was taking this conversation outside with them. But he said he took them outside and they walked out into the parking lot. And he said, I just looked up off into the distance and I started staring at their sign. And he said they looked at me like, what is this guy looking at? They probably thought I was crazy. But soon they realized what I was looking at. And they looked up at the sign and I looked at them and I said to them, this is Pastor Jeff speaking, obviously. He said, Burger King, Burger King, your vision, your mission, you are the king of a burger, not chicken sandwich. And so what he was trying to say was, it's not that you can't sell a chicken sandwich, but your vision is all about making the best Whopper, the best burger. How much of that happens in our organizations and the things that we lead? Again, it doesn't mean that we can't add things. It doesn't mean we can't have a variety of things. But if those things begin to lead us and pull us away from our mission and our vision, then we have a problem and we begin drifting away from who we are called to be as an organization. And so I want to talk just a little bit about what is vision, because I know that if you're listening in any leadership capacity, you've heard that term before, and maybe you've tossed it around, maybe you've tried to use it, maybe you've tried to look at what it looks like in the thing that you lead. Listen, if you don't have a vision, the people will perish. They want to know, where are we going? And where is this path of this organization or the thing that I'm being led in, where is it taking me? And so you have to have vision as a leader. And so I would sum it up just kind of simple. If I was to give you the most simple definition of what vision is, it's the destination of where you want to end up. And so we could dive into that in great detail. I want to keep this part just kind of an overview, if you will. I'm going to give you an exercise in the middle of it. We're going to talk about drift, and then I'm going to have some application at the end. And so if you're watching this, listening to this, and you're not able to write some things down, make sure you come back to this, because I do want you to do the exercise that I'm going to lead you into. But vision is the destination of where you want to end up. And most people have this. I hear a lot of people talking about people/leaders without vision. or we'll talk about an organization without vision, or we'll talk about all these things and we'll say, well, they don't have vision and they don't have vision and this person doesn't have vision. And I believe that there is some truth in that, but I don't believe it's the most common thing. I believe it's more of the minority, meaning I believe more people have vision than they think they do. I believe that we have vision. I believe that we understand it, at least on a basic level. But I believe if we look at someone or an organization and we say they don't have vision, what we're actually saying is they're not communicating that vision, and or probably more importantly, they're not executing that vision. And so I believe that most leaders, most people have vision. And so think about something you lead for just a moment, all right? Whether it's a organization, whether it's anything. Just think about one thing that you lead for a moment. If you started leading an organization, let's say you started it from nothing, or maybe you just came into an organization that was already established and you became one of the key leaders there. When you stepped into that leadership position, you had a mental picture of what the organization would look like years down the road. Like you saw it, you pictured it, you envisioned it. That's vision. If you coach a team, you had a vision when you became to the head coach, or you stepped into that role, whether it was 5-year-olds or a high school team or a college team. You had this vision to make those young men or those young women better athletes. And then you saw this picture of them holding the state championship trophy. Like, that is vision. If you raise kids, when you got ready to step into parenthood, you had a vision of what it would look like years down the road. If you were a successful parent, what those kids would now look like as young or even older adults. Like, that is vision. If you started a nonprofit before you started it, and if you did this, you know it was going to take a lot of work, and vision is what drove you. It was your why. You had this mental image of impacting people all over the area and maybe even beyond through your nonprofit. This is vision. And for me, personally, you guys that have been following along, I'm a church planner. I pastor a church alongside one of my best friends, and I had a mental picture. I had a mental image. I had a dream. I had a burden in my heart to plant a church that would look like something, and I could see things that were in the future that I couldn't necessarily get to at that moment. And I knew it was going to take time. I knew it was going to take work. I knew it was going to take different resources and all of these things. But I had a mental image of where I wanted to go, the destination that I was trying to reach. I had a vision for our church. We have vision, but we drift from it. And I'll talk about why here in just a few. But for now, I want to give you this little exercise. And so if you're able, I want you to take out a pen or a pencil and a piece of paper. And again, if you're not able, just listen. And I would challenge you to go back and do this. But I want you to think about just one area that you lead. Again, we're all leaders. We all have influence. And so we're leading. We have influence over certain things. But I want you to think about just one specific area. Maybe it's your job. Maybe it's a team. Maybe it's your nonprofit. Maybe it's your kids. I don't know. Just think about one thing for sake of this exercise. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to pause for a moment, and I want you to think back at some of the thoughts, some of the dreams, some of the mental images that you had when you first stepped into that aspect of leadership. Whether, again, it was a nonprofit or a new job, I want you to write down the things that you thought about, the mental image that you saw when you got ready to step into that leadership position. I want you to write them down. Like, do it right now. Like, don't hesitate. Whether you write them down in a long list or whether you go ahead and formulate this well-polished, vision statement, I want you to write down the things that you saw when you first stepped into that position. That was your vision. That was your why. That was the destination that you had in your mind, that you saw in your mind with your eyes or with your brain or whatever you want to use there, that you wanted to take this organization to, that was going to be influenced and impacted because of your leadership. If you're a little bit confused, or maybe you're like, man, I don't really know what I'm supposed to write or what I'm going to do, I'll go through mine. as a leader of a church, okay? As I pastor this church. And I'll share with you the vision of Seven Cities Church, okay? We have a vision / mission statement to guide people to life in Christ, meaning we believe life comes from Christ and it comes abundantly, and we want to guide people to the Savior of this world named Jesus Christ, whether you agree with that or not. That is our vision. That is our mission. We want to guide people to life in Christ. We have a church called Seven Cities because we are surrounded and in the middle of 7 massive cities. Our vision in the first 10 years is to have a campus or a church in all 7 cities. Like literally, we want a physical location in all 7 cities within the next 10 years. We want to train and develop leaders. Our vision is to do that and then send them out into their ministry opportunities, whether it's with 7 cities or something else. Our goal is to lead them and develop them so that they can find their full potential as we've guided them to life in Christ, and then send them out to step in what God has called them to do. We have a vision to create a space that's inclusive for special needs families, where families can come with a child who has special needs, who may have an outburst in the middle of service, and nobody bats an eye because it's so normal, because the vision is that we're all together in one family, and we all come from different places and spaces, and we have our own things that are going on, but we are there to worship God. And we want to create a vision where special needs families can feel that and know that they can worship freely because we have what it takes. We have the resources, we have the supplies, we have everything to include their child into this worship experience. We have a vision to foster and adopt children in the 7 cities and beyond. We believe that the family unit is created by God and that every child deserves a loving home. That is our vision. Like I could tell you a few more, but those are some of the burdens and the mental images that were on my mind, that were on my heart when I got ready to plant Seven Cities Church. And if you can't tell, like, this fires me up. Like this is something I'm so passionate about, and it gets me so excited. And listen, that's what vision does. That's why we have to have it, because it drives you on the bad days. It pushes you when you don't want to. It forces you to be disciplined when you want to be lazy. It forces you to make hard decisions when you want to take the easy route. Like vision, it's the destination of where we are headed. This is vision. This is vision. And as leaders, we have got to have vision, or the people will perish. We've got to do what it takes to take that mental image that we have, the vision that we have for the thing that we're leading, and get to that place. This is vision. And friends, leaders, you got to have it. You got to have it. And so I hope that you can work through that exercise. Like, think about those things. And if you wanted to take that a little bit further, maybe it's been a couple years since you started or whatever you started, or you began leading whatever you're leading. Take those thoughts and that mental image and write them down. But if you want to take it a step further, write down the things that you see right now. Write down the destination that you want to take your organization to right now. And I would imagine that a lot of those things are going to match up. And if they don't, then one of two things has happened. Either one, things have shifted a little bit and you've had to make some tweaks in your vision, and that is perfectly okay. Or two, you've drifted away from your vision for a couple reasons, and we're going to dive into that right now. So let's talk about vision drift. What is vision? Vision is leading to a destination. It's taking your organization or the thing that you lead to a thing that you see, a place that you see, a destination that you see. And sometimes it takes 10 years and sometimes it takes 40 years. And I believe the moment we get there, we feel like we've arrived. By that time, we got even a bigger vision. Like our vision just keeps growing. Like we never fully arrive, but we always keep that destination ahead of us so that we know where we're going, so that we know what we're working towards, so that we can lead the organization towards something greater than ourselves. All right, you guys with me? All right, vision drift. Vision drift. Why do we drift away from it? And I think this answer is rather easy and simple, to be honest, if we were to answer it at face value. And it's because we lose focus of that mental image or destination that we're trying to reach. We lose focus of it. We completely forget about the destination that we are trying to get to. Think about that for a moment. As leaders, we have vision, we have a destination, we have one massive goal, and everything that you do or everything that you don't do either leads you towards that destination, towards that vision, or it takes you away from it. And when we do things or we allow things or we choose not to do things that are pushing us towards that vision, we're headed in the opposite direction. That's what we call vision drift. And so I want to give you three major reasons why I believe we drift. There are more. And we could talk about this all day. I'd love to get into conversation with you. Shoot me a message, whatever you want to do. Shoot me a comment and wherever you're. Just if you want to talk more about it, let's do it. Because I love this, and I'll be honest with you, this one is really personal for me because I'm right in the middle of this, and I'll explain what I mean by that. So let's start with the first one. I believe we drift from our vision. Number one, because of distractions. Distractions. Like, if you have a vision for something that you lead, it should be so big that it scares you, right? Your vision should be so big that it scares you. And if it's not big, if it doesn't scare you, it's not big enough. Like, we should have this massive vision, this destination that's really far away, that pushes us and challenges us to get there. Now, granted, I believe we should create goals in order to make things a little more achievable, to make things in this opportunity to create this space to celebrate those victories all along. But you can't back up and create little milestones or checkpoints if you don't have the final destination in mind. And it should be big, but we get distracted. We focus on things that are in the present, and we miss out on where we're trying to go in the future. We're distracted by what we see now that we can't see what we want to see later. Does that make sense? Let me share the personal part. I told you, and most of you know, I lead a church, and we have a really big vision. And I just shared some of it with you. Like it's big and it's scary and it's a bit audacious. And we know that we're never going to get there without the help of the Lord, who's going to guide us and lead us along the way. We know we're going to make mistakes. I'm not afraid to fail, and that's a whole nother podcast, and we'll talk about that in the future. But it's big and scary. And so I'll just use one example out of some of the vision statements that I gave you, or things in our vision. We want to plant a church in all 7 cities within the first 10 years, okay? We are about to finish up year number 2, all right? And so our goal was by the end of year 3, we would begin, we would have campus or church number 2, okay? And so right now, and especially the last couple months, I've realized how distracted I have been by the things that are happening all around me, the things that I can see, the things that I can feel, the burdens that are on me. And I'm thinking to myself, my gracious, how in the world am I going to have another church planted in just over a year, and then 5 more after that in the next 5 years? Like, how am I going to do that when I see all of these struggles and all of these things that I'm facing just in campus or church number 1? And what happens, and they're real, I'm not negating that. Like, I think there's wisdom in it. I'm not going to go out and plant a church tomorrow and start another church if number 1 is not healthy, right? But there's a difference between being distracted and using wisdom. And what's happened is I've become distracted by all the things that I see right now, that it's distracted me to the point to where it makes me not be able to focus on what I want to see. Does that make sense? Like I'm so distracted by, I'm like, man, what about this? Well, we don't have the money to do that. We don't have the staff to do that. Who's going to pastor that church? Who's going to lead that church? Well, we had a hard enough time getting a building. How are we going to find another building? Who's going to pay for that? All of these things that are distracting us. And again, I know they're real, but you can't allow the present distractions to stop you from pushing towards to your vision. And I think that we do that so often. And when we do that, even though we're bogged down by true realities, by true things that are real, you can't allow them to distract you from your vision. If anything, that's when you communicate and focus and execute on vision more than ever. Because you're going to be bombarded with all of these things to try to get you away from where you're trying to go. And so you keep pushing towards vision. You ask yourself, okay, if we make this decision, is it going to set us up for the vision 4 years down the road? If we don't do this, what's going to happen here? Every decision you make today impacts tomorrow. And so we can't get distracted by what's happening right now, that we lose sight of that mental image, that destination of our vision that we're trying to reach. Think about your vision. Again, write it down and start communicating that, and begin to look at what distractions are keeping me from seeing and living and pushing towards that vision. Because I can promise you, if you live a distracted life, you'll never live a fulfilled life. You can't. You'll never reach the destination that you want if you allow every distraction to knock you down and push you away. Because guess what? Distractions will come. They're going to. And from a faith-based man, let me just tell you, there's a real enemy who wants to destroy you. And if you begin to do things that you feel like God has called you to do, and you begin to lead with character and integrity in a way that honors God, if you think the enemy isn't going to try to creep in and destroy that, you are mistaken. You are being distracted. And so, let's not be distracted. Let's focus on our vision, all right? Don't let the distractions of the day impact the vision of tomorrow, okay? That's number one. Number two, and all three of these kind of go together. Busyness. Oh boy, this one's real, right? This one's real. Like, man, I am so busy. I need another hour in my day. Guess what? If you did, it'd be just as full as the 24 that you have now, right? Like, we don't need another hour. We need to focus on what's most important. That's why it's so important to get the first part right. Vision, you got to have it. And you got to be able to communicate it. And it's got to be so normal to articulate and use that as a filter, so that when you get busy, you can look at what's happening in my life, look at all the busyness. Okay, this thing is helping me reach my vision. This part of busyness is not. There's a difference between busyness and productivity. And so often we get so busy we can't see past the moment. I call this survival mode. Again, I've been there the last 4 or 5 months, where I've literally done everything that I could, at least I feel like, to get from Sunday to Sunday, from week to week. And I'll come up just long enough to catch my breath. Like, I'm drowning, I'm treading water, and then I catch my breath. All right, here we go again. I'm going to swim some more. You will never be able to see the future if you're drowning in the present. And so often we allow busyness to do that. And so we have to take a step off the field for a moment. I love the football analogy. When you think about coaches, whether you like football or not, there's coaches everywhere. There's an offensive coach, a defensive coach, a quarterback coach, a lineman coach, and most of those guys are on the field. And guess what? Although they're looking at different things, they're viewing them from the same angle. But guess what? There's a coach in the box. Meaning there's a coach up top who's looking at things differently, and he sees things that you can't see on ground level. And so when we get so busy, we're only looking at things through ground level at best. We have to step back. That's why I gave you that exercise. And that's why I'm encouraging you. Please go back and do that. We have to step back for a moment to say, who are we? What's my vision, and where am I headed? And all these things that are keeping me busy, are they actually helping me or hurting me? Are they leading me to that destination or pulling me away? We cannot allow busyness to keep us from the vision that we have for the thing that we lead. So distractions, busyness, and number 3, this one, again, they all go together, fear. Fear. I'll be really transparent for a minute. I might even get emotional. To think about the vision that we have at Seven Cities Church, it scares the mess out of me, because I see what I see now. And please don't hear me if you're a part of our church, or maybe if you're not. Our church is not unhealthy at all. Our church is incredible. Do we have things we have to work on and improve? Yeah, we always will. And if you think that you don't, then now you're not being the leader that you're supposed to. We want to be proactive leaders, not responsive leaders. We don't just react all the time. We got to move. We got to look ahead. But as I think about, man, like, we're about to finish year 2. We got 1 year to find leaders, to get resources, to get financial stability. Not that we're unstable, but for another campus, for another church. Like all of these things. And guess what? Fear begins to creep in. And when I allow fear to take priority in my life oh my gosh, of course I'm not going to see the vision anymore, because remember, my vision is big and my vision scares me, and that's a great thing. However, if you allow the present to scare you so much that it doesn't lead you into the vision and the destination, you've allowed fear to win. I call it faith. You got to have faith to step out into things, to push into things, to lead into things. Again, maybe you're not faith-based. It's going to take some courage. It's going to take some boldness. It's going to take people telling you, you are crazy. How can you say we're headed here? Look at what's going on. And you say, oh, yes, we are. Here we are. We're going to work on this thing, and we're going to tweak this thing. And I promise you, we're going to get through this over the next 6 months. And I'm going to show you. And now that vision, and we just keep pushing. And we keep leaking and bleeding and communicating and pouring out vision to those that we lead. And all of a sudden, as time passed, people are going to begin to catch on. Because guess what? They're also going to catch on to that fear if you don't. And I would much rather know that people are calling me crazy, saying, don't you see everything that's going on? And catch on to that, rather than catching me being complacent and stuck and still and not moving forward to the destination because I've allowed fear to paralyze me. Vision. We got to get there. We got to push. We got to lead. And we can't let distractions take us away from that. We can't let busyness drown us, and we can't let fear paralyze us. How's your vision? Are you communicating it? Are you executing it? Have you just completely forgot about it because you're just going from day to day to day? You'll never reach that destination. You'll never reach it. We don't end up where we want by accident. It takes work and intentionality. And I promise you, if you will begin to look at the things that are distracting you, keeping you from your vision, if you will look at your plate and look how busy you are, I get it. Listen, I am. Think about our day and time. How you doing today, man? Oh, I'm just busy. Doing good, though. Busy. What if we said, I'm doing great, man. I got a lot on my plate, but hey, we pushing towards vision. I know where I'm headed. And one day at a time, 1 inch at a time, 1 bite at a time, we're headed towards it. What if that was our perspective? And then fear? Oh my gosh. Again, faith-based, fear doesn't come from the Lord. It comes from the enemy. And he wants to destroy you. He wants to trip you up. He wants to mess with your vision. And I absolutely refuse to allow fear to be louder than my faith. Don't let fear paralyze you. We got vision. We're headed to a destination. I can see it. I can feel it. I can taste it. I can't wait to get there. It's the why. It's the reason I wake up in the morning. It's the reason I keep pushing. It's the reason I'm challenging my staff. It's the reason I'm telling them hard things. It's the real reason I'm speaking truth. It's the reason I had to let somebody go. I'm using an example here. It's the reason I just made a new hire. It's the reason I just spent this money. I could go on and on. It's vision. And if we can communicate that after we see it and stand on it and believe it and live in it and push towards it, our organizations and the things that we lead will look drastically different. And that's across the board. Organizations, coaching, parenting, whatever it is. Let's have vision. Let's see where we're trying to go, and let's push forward. All right? Application. I got 3 things for you besides the exercise. Go back and do that exercise, but add this to it. All right? Number 1, write down your vision statement or paragraph. After you make that list, you go through that exercise, write a statement, write a paragraph, and be able to articulate it well. If I'm in the elevator with you and you have 60 seconds and I say, hey, what do you do? Oh, I do this. I lead this. What's your vision? You should be able to go boom and have me sold, completely bought in. And you got to be excited about it. If you ain't, nobody else is either. All right. Number 2, what things are you allowing to lead you towards drifting? Think about that. What things are you allowing that are leading you towards vision drift? You got to remove them. You got to change them. You got to tweak them. You got to do something. Write them down and figure it out and take action. And number 3, that's exactly what I just said. What are you going to do about it? Take action. Take action. It's one thing to just identify it, but then you have to do something about it. Don't just allow the things that are happening that are pushing you towards vision drift to continue to happen and take place. Do something about it. Let's not drift from our vision. Let's not drift. Let's be dreamers. Let's be wise. Let's be faith-filled. Let's be challengers. Let's be encouragers. And let's keep pushing. There's a vision inside of you that nobody else has, and there ain't but one. You are a limited edition. Go live out that vision, and don't you let anybody else change you, lead you in a different direction, or push you away and make you drift from your vision. Come on, somebody. Fired up today. Listen, I would love to help you with this in any way that I can. I'll just tell you, I'm no expert. Again, I just was transparent and vulnerable and shared some of my own struggles. But man, I've realized more than ever, I've worked a lot on vision. I've led many different things, and I've every year I learn something new about it, is what I'm trying to say. And I think the last 6 months I've learned more about vision than I ever have before. And so, man, let's go do it. Let's live it out. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back in 2 weeks. I hope that you found value to this, with this, from this, and it'll give you the confidence to lead well as you carry out and push and communicate and execute your vision. Until next time, I'll see you.